Greetings, students. Today we're going to look at kind of the basics of what makes a successful essay. And this is the essay writing lecture, which you have access to. It's under additional lectures. It's on our Canvas page. And this is my kind of breakdown. I'll give you the page here. I think this is probably, okay, it's 19. Page 19 of essay writing. Starts off with this little checklist here, and these are kind of things to look for, right? Does your essay have evidence? Do you analyze said evidence? Make sense of it. Show how it supports your argument. Do you have a main point? Is it a good one? Is your essay clearly organized with a hook, topic, and concluding sentences all correctly put together? And is it grammatically correct? If you have those things, you should have a pretty solid essay. According to MLA format, every essay does need a title, so do make sure to include an original title. Let's go ahead and skip past this page. Okay, this is basically the essay breakdown of what goes into a good essay, right? So you have a hook. There is a attention getter. Usually this is a statistic, a quote, a personal narrative, use of vivid detail. All of those can work as a hook. You want about 3 or 4 pieces of solid background information to help introduce your audience to the topic of what you're writing about. After that, you want to have the ethos, where you introduce a text. So here's we introduce a text. It's very common in essay writing where you're asked to write in response to a piece of writing. And here's your opportunity to introduce that piece of writing. So you want to start excuse me, by introducing the author and then the text. If you're writing a response to literature, for example, you want to present more maybe biographical information. In this essay, this is an argument essay, we're going to do ethos. So when you're presenting ethos, you're presenting what is this person's expertise. That's what you want to explain or define. So I put a little list here of how I would go about establishing that. Talk about, and in this particular essay, the argument essay, you'd be introducing either here Peter Singer or Dr. Garrett Hardin. So what degrees do they have, from where, what's their field of expertise, what are the titles of their major publications, so you have some idea of what they're interested in, and their major professional experience. Excuse me. And from this, we can ascertain, to a fairly good degree of accuracy, the ethos of the author. And then after that usually takes a couple sentences. After that, you can have a brief, like 1-sentence summary of, what's the main argument, what's their main argument. If you're writing a response to literature, here's where you would put like summary of the text. What's the story? What's the plot? What's the theme? If you're writing about, like what we are here, an argument essay, you're writing in response to argumentative claims already, state their claim. So what's Singer's main idea? Put it right there. Or what's Hardin's main idea? Put it right there. And just do one. You just pick whichever author you're going to focus on, and you'd present their ethos, present a little summary of the text right there. That's it. So that's part 3 of the introduction. Part 4 is, of course, to have the thesis itself. The thesis can take a couple different forms, but usually it's a 1-sentence claim, or it can be a multi-sentence, like you state a claim and then you state like about 4 supporting reasons, or supporting facts or points. And that's your basic introduction, right? You have your hook or attention getter, 3 or 4 pieces of background information, introduce the ethos of the author, a brief 1-sentence summary of the text, put in your thesis. Your thesis is between 1 or 4 sentences. Anywhere in that range is going to be pretty good. Now, as far as your body paragraphs go, if you think of them as burgers, you're going to be in good shape, right? The burger sandwich metaphor is a good one, because it tells us and it explains to us that a good body paragraph has these beginning and ending elements. You have the top bun or the topic sentence. You have, we can talk about what these things can represent. If a paragraph is really complex, it might have all this different stuff in there, some lettuce, tomato, bacon and cheese, or maybe more simple. We're going to present kind of a simpler method where we're just looking at basically, say we have a bun, maybe some lettuce, cheese, burger, bottom bun. You can have other stuff in there, but we're going to go with a pretty simple one to start. So you have your topic sentence. That piece of lettuce there would be, say, representing context. You're introducing the context of the quote that you're about to give us. The cheese in this metaphor would be the quote. The burger would be your analysis of the quote. The bottom bun is going to be your concluding sentence in this metaphor. But when you think of a body paragraph, you should think of a burger or sandwich or veggie burger. The point is that you have two buns and you have at least two or three things in the middle of those two buns. And that can help represent those things that we just talked about here, which are on the next page, right here, right? You have a topic sentence, you introduce your evidence, give us some context for where in the paper, what was this person talking about when they said what they said that you're going to quote, give us the context, quote, cite it, of course, in MLA format. Then you have your analysis, about at least 3 or 4 sentences where you're making sense, you're breaking down the quote, and you're putting it all in terms of, how does this piece of evidence support my topic sentence? How does this piece of evidence ultimately support my thesis? If your analysis is doing that, you're in good shape. And your concluding sentence has, a couple of things going on there. Basically 2 things. You're looking to A, summarize what you just said in the paragraph, and B, transition into the next one. So part summary, part transition. And that makes a good body paragraph. Now there's some other facts here about body paragraphs. So about topic sentences in particular, let's take a look at those. That top bun. Let's take a look at the top bun. It's an argument. So let's just start there. It's an argument. It's a claim. It's an argument. And that's what it should be. What that does is that sets up the rest of the paragraph. If you deliver an argument in the topic sentence, the purpose of the paragraph becomes quite clear. It becomes, oh, okay, let's support and defend this claim or argument. If, however, the body paragraph were to open with a fact or a quote or a summary or analysis, just take a fact, for example. Let's just take that one example there. If it starts with a fact, it doesn't really give the paragraph anywhere to go. Because if you're saying that something is a fact, and that's like the beginning of the body paragraph, it's hard to really plan out strategically what then would be the purpose of the paragraph that would follow a fact, right? Yeah, I mean, it might work in some type of papers, but it does not work in an essay, it does not work in an argumentative essay to have a topic sentence that merely states a fact, because it doesn't give the paragraph, it doesn't give us as the writer anywhere really to go. It doesn't give us a space. And these other things, all cause different difficulties, either being out of order. The summary has the same kind of issue as the fact. It's like, what space does that leave you as a writer to what are you supposed to do in the rest of the paragraph, right? But if you argue something in your topic sentence, that's great because it gives you a purpose, right? It sets out and states a clear purpose for that paragraph. This page here, I'm going to kind of run out of a little bit of time because these are short videos, but take a look at this page. This page looks at what are some bad topic sentences and how you might fix it. Essentially here I take the first one, which is bad, and fix it by adding a claim. And that works. The other paragraph to look at in here is the counter argument, and you want your counter argument you want to think of it as you're structuring it or you're organizing it. Think of it as like an in and out double, where you're going to have essentially 2 quotes, probably a quote from say Hardin or Singer, then some analysis, and then another quote from a different source and some analysis, wrapping and putting that all together. So that's a good, like when you're writing a counter argument, think about that double model. That's how you want it to look. Now, essentially, to skip ahead, I do want you to read this when you're in the lecture, but I'm not going to make sure we don't run out of time. So we're going to skip ahead to the purposes, or the three things you might do in a counterargument. The counterargument, as it explains here, is usually, like academically, we typically want to see it as the second to last paragraph, or the paragraph before the conclusion. On this page, it describes how Aristotle also thinks it could work at the beginning. So really, it could go either place. But the kind of standard essay positioning of it is right here. You have your intro, several argumentative paragraphs. You have a counter argument or rebuttal before the conclusion. All right. So what to do in that counter argument? You can refute, which is to argue against an idea. You can accommodate, which is a very good idea, which is to incorporate maybe a position from someone that you don't agree with, but you're willing to accept that that's a true statement and that it's a good point, and you're going to incorporate it, make it part of your own argument, which strengthens your argument and also makes it more appealing to people who are critical of your argument. The other option is to quarantine, which is to say it's kind of a lawyerish trick where you're explaining how what the the quote that you've quoted, while it is true, it is not relevant. So you can either argue against, you can incorporate an opponent's opinion, or you can try to quarantine, which is to say that it is true, but ultimately irrelevant. Okay, so think of it as a double-double. Here's the basic model for the counter-argument. You state their position, quote their position, review their analysis or reasoning. So here you're not actually doing analysis, you're more like stating what, probably someone who you disagree with, but you're explaining their reasoning. And then you would introduce your own counter piece of evidence, and analyze it, show how it, does one of those three things. Hopefully it maybe in one case could disprove the quote here, in which case you would look at this and say that's a pretty successful counter argument. And you want to wrap it up with a normal concluding sentence. And there are a variety of other things that you can do in the counter argument, so they're all listed here. Basically, I just go over the one I like and the one I use, which is basically number 6 right, on this list. But there are other options, which are all good. And then to wrap this up, let's look at the conclusion. In a conclusion, you want about 6 to 10 or 8 to 10 sentences that wrap up. You can reflect or meditate on some of the main themes or issues, add some additional analysis, speculate about the future, close with a quotation which offers deep insight into like a theme or a bigger issue or bigger picture question or a bigger picture idea that relates to what you're talking about in the essay. You can close with a personal story, a question, call your readers to action. Any of these are successful models for the conclusion. Okay, so that pretty much takes us through what we can get to here. I guess probably since we don't, we'll just keep it right here because we don't have much space left. So when we talk about evidence, remember that we're looking for these things here. You're looking for quotes from academic journals, books, newspapers, magazines, films, reliable online sources, readings, lectures, personal experience. And when you quote, make sure that you cite. There are two parts to that, right? One is that you use in-text citations within the essay itself, and the other part is that you have a works cited page. There's plenty on the website about that, so do make sure to look at the sample works cited page on our Canvas page. It gives you some other examples there. All right, so that's pretty good. It takes you through the basic essay, and I hope this helps you get started on how to write a basic argumentative essay.